It again presents a tough balance for President Kenyatta between loyalty and professional competence as the selection panel prepares to forward 3 names from a list of 10. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
All right, and of course, that's something that we're going to be following up right here on KTN News, and we'll bring you those updates as the vetting continues. But Deki, of course, a very sensitive position there, the position of DPP. In an ideal world, really, there should be no politics per se in it, but it goes without saying that it's also a very sensitive position that I'm sure government would probably want somebody who's friendly to government.
Yes, definitely. And, you know, that is I don't know if that's the unfortunate part of it. But of course, you know, we cannot negate the fact that politics tends to influence everything in society, and especially in this kind of society. We have said this before, that the government does have its own agendas that it wants to forward and to front, and therefore it behooves them to look for somebody who is friendly and inclined towards them when it comes to some of these matters. Because, of course, we have seen the way they have acted in days past, where anyone who may have seemed to have opposed them in any kind of way, then, you know, have faced the consequences thereof. So because according to, you know, the procedure of choosing this particular person, the way it goes, that it has to be fronted to the president, who then picks a name and takes it back to parliament, then it is going to be obvious and evident that political influence is going to play. But at the end of the day, also, I think that what is more important for the government, you know, is that issues of corruption needs to be dealt with. We need at least to see a particular personality who comes into position and is able to do something that is different, to at least, you know, raise up hope and be able to deal with this demon of corruption that has continually been there. At some point, somebody needs to take the stand and be able to do what is right where this nation is concerned.
But I guess there's also the need for goodwill from the top, like some have said, because we've seen leaders in certain institutions, and we have so many of those. You've mentioned corruption, that being one of them. For instance, the leader of the anti-corruption unit, who sometimes come in guns blazing, but somehow the system seems to be against them to a point where they're hounded out of office, or something is found that is not above board, and they are fired. So even with the DPP, one would expect that as much as it's somebody who's friendly to government, really, at the end of the day, they're there to protect the sanctity of the Constitution, and at the end of the day, Wanjiko's interests.
It's very true that that is how it is supposed to be. But sometimes some of these people who take up this office find that they come into contact and opposition with a great deal of system. There is a system that is already entrenched and then, you know, engraved in it. And there are people that do not want any shaking to be done where this is concerned, because they do have their own interests that they're trying to protect. So when it is one against many, it becomes very, very difficult. And even if the person is trying to push an agenda and being able to deal with issues of corruption and, of course, primarily cartels that are, you know, in place, they find it very difficult. And of course, as you were saying, I think sometimes it's also the fact that these people also come to them with a lot of goodies sometimes, you know, that is irresistible, or they may, you know, prohibit them from moving forward in one of their agendas, making them frustrated in all these kind of things. But we as a nation and our leadership to begin with, we need to get to a point that we build a strong nation, because we have to understand that we will not always be here in terms of ourselves and our interests. We need to build something that is strong enough so that people who come after us can be able to stand on it. And I think when we get that mindset, we will be able to change things and allow people the independence to work. Because if this does not come into place, then we will see it being streamed down, where even people who are trying to do a small business cannot be able to do it.
Yeah, all right. And well, let's wait and see. And like I mentioned earlier, definitely following up on that right here on KTN News with selection panel. Of course, those issues that was raised regarding the vetting exercise, because it's more like well, once somebody has been put in that place, the vetting really didn't meet many's expectations of being thorough and ensuring that those who possibly deserve the job should be there. So let's wait and see whether the DPP's vetting is going to be any different from that. They stand selected, so that's quite a big number, and let's wait and see how that goes.
Okay, let's wait and see.
All right. Now, the government intends to use the 90-day dusk to dawn curfew in Mount Elgon to rid the region of criminals. But with the perennial land disputes, will the government get it right this time? Shadrach Miti interrogates this.
This is Chabuk Phase 3 in Mount Elgon, an area when seen from all aspects, it is full of life, fertile, calm and extremely productive. But for years, this land has largely been the epicenter of trouble in Mount Elgon, being synonymous to rape, torture and murder. About 10 years ago, the Sabaud Land Defense Forces, then demanding for land rights, turned this area into a battleground, terrorizing residents even as it accused the government of allocating land to non-locals. Mount Elgon appears to be sliding back to where it was 10 years ago. Killings, robbery and rape, with at least 20 people killed in the past 3 months.
Kuna vijana baka Boryot. Wale walikuwa class 3, standard 3. Ndio walikuwa askari hapa. Wakati walikuwa wamejenga kambi ya EPI hapa ng'ambo. Hao ndio walikuwa wanakimbia na bunduki. Class 3. Na baadhi ya viongozi ndio walikuwa na incite vijana kwamba tafanyeni hivyo ili kusudi mtapewa mashamba.
There are claims that the gang members are well trained and have recruited members across every ward here. The speed at which the raids are done, followed by immediate disappearance of the attackers, point to a ruthless gang. The attacks have displaced hundreds of residents, forcing the government to act by slapping a dusk to dawn curfew.
Sisi na maofisa wa usalama ndio tutakuwa tukitembea hapa wakati huo. Tukipatana na wewe itakuwa vibaya sana.
Security forces have identified these two brothers, Timothy Kitai, commonly known as Chaparakat, and Geyu Kitai, as the masterminds of a 17-member gang. Chaparakat is said to be a sharpshooter and has more knowledge about guns. The two brothers are said to be on a revenge mission.
Kama kuna watu ambao wanajua hao waangwana, wawaambie kwamba wao ndio tumekuja kuonana nao hapa.
Tarehe 19 maafisa wa wizara yangu watakuwa hapa, maafisa wa survey, maafisa wa lands, kushughulikia hizo plots zingine za section 3. Lazima tufanye ukaguzi zaidi ili tujue nani yako na shamba kihalali, wangapi wako na double allotment na wangapi hawana shamba kihalali. Hiyo kazi tutafanya for the next 2 months.
But even as Land CS Farida Karone issued that ultimatum, it is feared that many people may have already fallen victims.
Yule alipokea shamba ni mwenye alikuwa anaishi pale angali na kijicho. Anaangalia kwamba huyu alinidhulumu.
Serikali ingeeneza safari yake vile alianza kukawia wandoroba mashamba mwaka 71. Ingeisha kabla population ya watu kuongezeka.
There are claims and counterclaims as to what could be the real cause of the troubles in Mount Elgon.